If you like the Tesla stock jump today, click the like button. Here's what's going on. The president just imposed a series of tariffs on goods made in China, 50% on semiconductors and 100% on EVs and 50% on solar panels. So EV tariffs went from 25% to 100%. The tariff rate for lithium-ion batteries from China used in EVs will increase from 7.5% to 25%. And Tesla does use some of these batteries, but it's trying to go away from these batteries. So it really shouldn't have any long-term impact specifically about the batteries, but in the short term, Tesla could end up being caught up in some of these tariffs as well. It remains to be seen what China will do, if anything, about this. To some degree, this also makes Tesla's 4680 batteries more viable, especially because Tesla expects its 4680 battery cells to be cheaper than suppliers by end of year. And now with Chinese batteries getting even more expensive, the 4680 option will be even more attractive. The markets overall are not moving much, but it's great for US EV stocks. For example, Lucid is up 14.8% this morning because of less competition from China. In the US, Chinese competition is going to be non-existent. So it's a great day for Rivian too. On the flip side, these tariffs will delay the clean energy transition, making batteries and EVs more expensive before we have our own domestic supply chain to compete, will result in people choosing gas cars and hybrids. The tariffs will also be applied to other items, for example, rubber, medical, and surgical gloves. I think this one definitely makes sense. I don't think there's much money in that particular industry, but it's an important product, which is likely to have a shortage if something really bad happens again. Barron's writes Tesla should be impacted the least by the Biden administration's increased tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles. It seems like whoever I'm reading online, at first they're thinking about this negatively, but I look at the stock market and everyone is buying more Tesla stock today. This definitely increases tensions between the US and China. For now though, Tesla stock is safe from China tariffs. There's also the story all over the place. Going to be the biggest loser, says Indian-American entrepreneur on Musk picking China over India. A few years ago, he exchanged emails with Elon Musk about the risks in China. He warned him they would rob him blind and urged him to consider moving manufacturing to India instead, where he would have dominated the market by now. Well, Tesla is dominating with the Model Y in China, and the Chinese automotive market is almost or more than 5 times that of the Indian market. Tesla can dominate the Indian market a little bit later. 9,800 Teslas were insured in China last week, and that's a little bit below than what was expected. 11,400 was the number that Troy was hoping for. However, looking at the numbers year over year, it's actually not bad. We are basically at the same level. The consensus generally is that we will be down year over year, but compared to the previous quarter, as long as this trend continues, we should be above the previous quarter. There's also no Chinese New Year this quarter, so that makes it easier. Troy anticipates that the deliveries this quarter will be either quite a bit lower than the previous year or a lot lower. Tesla's low financing rate, though, could be quite helpful with boosting deliveries. There's a rumor that states that the subscription rate of FSD after the free trial ends is 2%. Now, Gary Black assumes 6%, and we have seen polls that show 44% people subscribing. Of course, this is a very biased poll. So what's actually going on? Well, there's this credit card data that shows just 2% of Tesla owners with free FSD 30-day trials actually subscribed. If just 2% subscribed after a month, that would be disappointing for Tesla FSD given all the hype. Some polls were predicting take rates of 20% or more, estimates that Gary Black thought were absurd. The most common estimate I've seen was about 10%, and on the highest end, I've seen up to 20%. But this part is extremely important. The sample size was just 3,500 users out of 1.8 million trials, so could be unrepresentative of the Tesla owner population. Also, we know that this number is actually not going to be accurate. Not 1.8 million trials were started because not everyone started a trial, and many people still didn't have FSD v12. And if some of these people on the free trial are going to be getting 12.4, maybe the conversion rate is going to be substantially better because that version is supposed to be quite a bit better, but we'll see. But then the question is, how did they get these 3,500 people? They said they had the credit card info for them, but how did they reach these 3,500 people. So that's definitely a bit murky right now. Gary guesses that this data has info about what kind of car you drive and whether you were given a free 30-day FSD trial embedded within the data. It then uses AI to extract useful credit card purchase information for marketers. It could have been as simple as 3,500 Tesla owners who paid for an FSD subscription within 30 days after getting a free trial. But then how do these people give their data to this company? We need to dig a bit deeper here. Omar guesses that this data is from email receipt analysis of around 3,000 people, and he thinks that 2% is underestimating what the conversion rate will be 30 days after the free trial ends for everyone. It doesn't match with other polling he's seen. But I think this explanation makes sense, and this reveals why we shouldn't perhaps take it very seriously at all. So this company accessed credit card data from about 3,500 Tesla owners who participated in the free trial and found that only 50 bought or subscribed to FSD after the trial. Here, after digging a bit deeper, I finally found where all of this data is coming from. So we have people starting the free trials, and then of course the trial ends, and then some people subscribe. So first of all, that 3,500 number is not going to be accurate because, as you know, the free trial lasts for 1 month. So if 1 month has not ended yet, how are you going to pay? The data shown here goes until May 5th, which means we would have to look at April 5th. And on April 5th, they had 2,500 people trying FSD for free. It's not going to change the end result completely, but it does change it. Also, supposedly, Tesla's fleet, 42% of it is still in FSD 11, and people are definitely a lot less likely to subscribe to FSD if they get V11. So keeping in mind that the data set here is not exactly big, it's only 2,500 people that we have data on, and keeping in mind that many of them would have received V11, I don't think this data is incredibly revealing. It does give us some insight, but it's definitely not concrete evidence and proof that the take rate is going to be so low. It certainly could be lower than many people expected, but I would wait a little bit longer. Electric does think that the data set is limited, but 2% sounds about right to them. Despite the recent price cut, it's still a very expensive product and the value is not clear to most people. As I previously stated, I've been impressed by V12, but it doesn't necessarily make it useful. V12 limits the speed in many areas and still makes mistakes. I think that it has value on the highway by reducing your workload and allowing you to focus more on the road, but on city streets it is more stressful than driving without it. I think it depends on which kind of city streets you're driving on. If you are going through multiple difficult intersections and you're driving downtown, yeah, if it's rush hour. But if it's a pretty simple city, not a large city, not downtown, not rush hour, it's pretty good. Therefore, I think most people see themselves better off with autopilot for now. And if you watched every single one of my video until the end, you will know that I said, personally, if I wasn't a Tesla stock investor, if I just drove daily, regularly, would I subscribe to Tesla's FSD at this moment right now? By the way, I purchased FSD outright. I wouldn't get the subscription yet, but it's getting close. However, when I drive, especially if I drive alone, I usually drive on FSD. If I drive with someone else in the car, unless I'm driving through really simple roads, I typically disengage it because occasionally it will do something very uncomfortable and it will seriously embarrass me. For example, braking really fast at a yellow light or being indecisive, which lane should I pick? This one or this one, this one or this one? I'm not sure. Maybe this, oh, maybe this one. So I turn it off unless I don't mind embarrassing myself in front of someone else. But by myself, I usually drive with it on. Elon Musk said Ron is a very smart man, and Ron has finally responded. Thanks for the kind words, Elon. Investing in Tesla and in you isn't just smart, it is electrifying. Tesla has filed for regulatory approval of the new Model 3 Performance in China. The deliveries are still expected to begin in the third quarter of 2024, though. Reuters is reporting that Tesla has been sued by an environmental nonprofit that accused the company of violating the Federal Clean Air Act hundreds of times by letting its Fremont, California plant emit harmful pollutants. They are saying that most of the harm is being done by the paint shop. I don't think there's much to worry for us Tesla stock investors. The civil fine is up to $121,000 per day, and we have seen something similar before, and Tesla ended up paying $1.5 million, which overall is basically nothing. And because Tesla is so pro-environment, I'm sure Tesla is not doing any of this on purpose if there is any wrongdoing found. So as a Tesla stock investor, I'm not worried. In the meantime, Reuters also is reporting that Tesla strike in Sweden heats up as nation's largest union joins fray. I think Tesla would rather sacrifice this one market instead of risking the strike spreading to other countries. Most importantly, though, while the union action has caused some disruption, Tesla's new vehicle registrations in Sweden have broadly kept pace with the market. Also, since February, Tesla has brought in about 25 temporary staff from other European countries, some for multiple short-term stays. We don't know if this is linked to the strike, but we can look at the previous years and we see no such workers being brought into Sweden. There is, however, one other way to solve this whole problem. For example, Amazon has a third-party company managing its Swedish warehouses, and these third-party companies do have collective agreements allowing the US parent company to avoid doing so. Now, last month, Elon did say that the labor storm had passed in Sweden, but he was contradicted by IF Metal, which said its strike continued. But I think what Elon Musk meant was things stabilized and Tesla is okay. This is good news for us Tesla stock investors. The Chamber of Industry and Commerce near Tesla's Giga Berlin factory sees the protests against the Tesla as a threat to the economic development of the region. The reason why I say it's good for us Tesla stock investors is because the government would then push back against these protests, protecting Tesla more. Due to this government support, investors like this comment though: more arrests, less stock. The Chamber of Commerce said Tesla is a company that is a glimmer of hope for all young people who want to stay in the region. We got some more Tesla stock news. The director of Cybertruck manufacturing has left Tesla. In this post on LinkedIn, he says that Cybertruck has achieved volume production now and that it's steady at 1,000 Cybertrucks produced. I think he means per week. I'm not 100% sure, but that's my guess. Drive Tesla Canada points out that he has no relation to Tom Zhu. He started at Giga Shanghai in 2019, helping to scale up the production lines for the Model 3 and Model Y. And then his expertise was brought into Giga Texas to scale and ramp Cybertruck production. It's unclear, though, whether he resigned or he was laid off. His tone in this message is very positive. Nothing bad at all about Tesla or Elon, and there's no indication that he resigned. So I would guess he was probably laid off, but I'm only speculating here. I think if you resign, it does make more sense to say that you resigned, but you can still be very positive about the company and the leader. I think if you say you resigned, it's probably a little bit easier to find the next job, because if you were laid off, it sort of implies that something was wrong maybe, or that you were not as good to keep your job, because not everyone got laid off. If everyone gets laid off, then okay, yeah, that doesn't really matter. But if only some people get laid off, I think it makes it harder. Tesla is being secretive with its new Megapack factory in China. You cannot film it. If you try, Tesla security will stop you. So getting updates about that factory is going to be difficult probably. I'm not quite sure what's happening here, but this is Moldova, and FSD supposedly works in Romania too, V12. I'm not sure how they are doing it. I don't think you can buy FSD over there yet. Maybe someone just imported a vehicle from the US into this country and here you go, it works. But there is some progress being made in Europe with regulations and everything. Speaking of FSD take rates, Omar says, for existing FSD users, FSD 12 is a massive improvement, but for much of the general public, it still sucks. One mistake is too many for a lot of people. And I heard this too. FSD V12 can't even always avoid potholes. For mass adoption, FSD will not only have to be safe, it will also have to be comfortable, and it's getting there. It's getting much better. I personally think take rates will skyrocket once we, of course, surpass the safety of human driving. That's when take rates will really go up. Regular Truck says a lot of people have had theories that Cybertruck does not have FSD yet because of rear wheel steering. I don't think that's a problem, says Regular Truck, because you can just turn it off. But can you turn off steer-by-wire? Some Tesla stock investors are going to be mad looking at this, but some will be happy. Tesla is now running paid advertisements on Google Search and X, encouraging Tesla shareholders to vote in the upcoming stockholder meeting. The initial reaction was they should also do paid ads promoting the Model Y's new special loan rate of under 1% in the US. Some think it's a complete waste of money. Ross says they literally cut prices every week to sell cars and don't advertise their weekly sales, but they they advertise for Elon's pay. Some investors, though, think that Tesla stock would fall if Elon's compensation was not reapproved. So in that case, you could make an argument that it's in best interest of Tesla and Tesla shareholders to make sure that the compensation package gets reapproved. I also suspect that Tesla can see some of the early votes, and they certainly hear from some of the bigger investors, and they know how some of these are going to vote. And if Tesla was sure that everything is going to be fine, I don't think they would be spending money advertising this stuff. So to me, this says that the vote is closer than many people think it is, and by advertising to basically retail Tesla stock investors, you are getting more votes that will support board's decisions. And Dave Lee just voted in favor to ratify the 100% performance-based stock option award to Elon Musk. Tesla is also sending this new letter to Tesla shareholders, telling everyone to vote for approving Elon's compensation package and moving Tesla from Delaware to Texas. I don't think the board before has ever made this much effort to get people to vote. We have had letters, paid ads, emails, posts. Remember that some Tesla stock investors like Jason DeBolt said that they would sell all of their Tesla holdings if Elon's compensation package does not get reapproved. And Fred too thinks that Tesla has some sort of insight into how the votes have been going, and probably Tesla is not liking the results so far, or it's too close. For those who are afraid that China might retaliate directly against Tesla because of the new tariffs for Chinese-made EVs if they are imported into the US, please remember that, and this is confirmed just now by the Tesla vice president in China, that more than 99.99% of Tesla's Chinese employees are Chinese, and the localization rate of parts has also exceeded 95%. AJ shared a picture of a Megapack. This is made in Lathrop, California. You can see how it looks when it's opened up. Here's another picture, and here's one more. Oh, look at these Cybertrucks. This is in Chicago. This is not Texas. At first, I thought this must be Texas. No, it's not. I have never so far experienced anything like this on FSD V12. The vehicle just randomly changing lanes for such a long time, just doing it completely randomly. I mean, it's not a safety critical intervention, but it must be quite annoying to other people. xAI nears a $10 billion deal to run Oracle's AI servers. If xAI needs more money, it seems like Elon is going to raise more money for xAI by welcoming other investors into xAI instead of selling Tesla stock.
What does this mean for Tesla? On one hand, does it protect it in the US versus, the harm of potential retaliation in China, which is such an important market for them?
Yeah, you've seen Elon Musk be quite proactive in his relations with China. He was there within the last 4 to 6 weeks, saying very nice things about China. He understands how important they are. But also Tesla and Elon have been brilliant over the course of the past 5 or 10 years of shoring up their own supply chain outside of the Chinese ecosystem. And so I actually think Tesla is the best positioned of all of the companies to be self-sustaining and therefore not dependent on Chinese supply chain for any of their battery materials. Not any, I shouldn't say. It's never going to be any. But the majority of their battery materials are going to be from their own supply chain, as opposed to the rest of the car companies that are competing with Tesla and competing with the Chinese companies still have to go to China to get their battery metals and to get other pieces of their supply chain, which will allow China to manipulate those prices up, which will cause, those companies to charge higher prices for those EVs.
Going back to the crisis of 2020 and the supply chain catastrophes that happened during that period of time, Tesla has proven that it can navigate all of these supply chain issues without any significant problems, or at least much, much, much better than everyone else. So I'm not worried about that at all. Because let's say Tesla had some supply chain issues, that just means everyone else is experiencing much bigger problems.
Because Tesla is still one of your favorite names, there was their product launch chief that quit. And had some pretty spicy comments kind of on his way out the door, saying that the recent layoffs are rocking the company. Its morale has been thrown, into disharmony, and it's hard to see the long game. Do you worry about things like layoffs having an effect on the culture and thus execution?
I don't at all. A lot of what Tesla lauds is their capacity to automate. I think that they're realizing that between AI and robotics, which are major focuses and major investments of their R&D budgets, that the future manufacturing of Teslas is going to be less people dependent. And so I think when you see, them take a major step back, it's always easy to add jobs, but when you cut jobs, you want to do it broadly and quickly. And so I actually applaud them for having done that. They can always add those jobs back, but I think they're taking a little bit of the poison up front, and they know that, that'll make them a healthier balance sheet moving forward. Of course, people that leave are going to be surly and unhappy with the direction, because that direction, is not what they chose it to be. But at the end of the day, Elon Musk is the Steve Jobs of Tesla, and the direction that he wants to take that company is the direction it's going to go.
That person was the only person that I have seen who ordered Tesla who publicly criticized what's going on at Tesla. I haven't seen anyone else. I have heard rumors, but I haven't seen anyone actually do it publicly like that one single person did it. So I actually expected a lot more. I mean, Tesla laid off more than 10% of its workforce, and only one guy came out publicly dissing the company and the CEO, basically saying that the environment is not that good. I think that's a pretty good outcome so far. But as Elon lays off more people, I would expect more people coming out saying things like that. Oh, things are bad at Tesla. Yeah, well, you were fired, obviously. You are going to disagree with what the company is doing. I very rarely ever see people who get fired say, oh yeah, I deserve to be fired. No, it's always, how did they dare do this to me? Almost always.
We are in the midst of an EV slowdown and a slump that's affecting everybody. And yet you find areas to be bullish, and just, how do you hang on to your conviction? What's kind of your North Star guiding you through a choppy period?
My North Star is the net zero commitments that all of these global governments have made, largely made outside of time that the current administrations will still be in place. But people have said by 2030, by 2035, by 2040, we're going to be carbon neutral, which I think is a crazy statement. But it's neither here nor there. What that means is for the next decade, policies are going to support consumers going green in any manner: solar, wind, EV, whatever that adoption might be. And so whenever you have global governments making those massive commitments, Fortune 500s making those massive commitments, policy is going to match that, and policy is going to continue to pull that maturation and that transition forward. And so my North Star continues to be these commitments that people would be too embarrassed to abandon, and therefore will stay convicted with.
And I rely on people doing what's best for them. If you look at how much it costs to own an EV, it's becoming more and more obvious every year that it makes sense to own an EV, as long as you can charge it easily, because it's so cheap. And it's only going to get cheaper. That's it for today's video. Make sure to click the like button so that we can make sure that there's no shadow ban on this channel. Here's another video from my other channel showing that it's only getting about half of the views it would normally get, because my videos are only shown to about 50% of the regular viewers in the first few days. And then after the first 3 days, it does push it out a little bit more, but because it's no longer news, it's old, no one's interested. So I appreciate everyone clicking the like button. That really helps. And going forward, I'm only publishing the full daily news videos on this channel, not on the old channel anymore. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. Otherwise, YouTube may stop showing you these videos completely. Subscribing sends YouTube a strong signal that this is a channel you want to watch.